Hey guys, welcome back. It's been a while, and being the first video of 2022, Happy New Year everybody. I thought I would do a quick recap and talk about some of my favorite movies and TV series that I watched in 2021. So let's start with movies. Also, by the way, if you see me looking this way, is because my computer is over there and I have like a list of all the different movies that came out this year, and I'm just kind of gonna go through and talk about the ones that I really liked and the ones I've watched. A lot of movies that came out last year or came out in 2021 I actually haven't seen, so which tend to always happen, right? You can't watch every single movie that came out in that year. There was Indiana Jones that was released last year. Indiana Jones and the Sanctuary of Black Order. What is this? So start with at the beginning. Well, this was actually before the Oscars. So I watched some of the movies that was nominated in the Oscar this year, and particularly the ones that stood out to me was Minari and The Father. In my opinion, The Father should have won Best Picture. That movie was incredible. The filmmaking, the story, the way it's told, like the story itself was very engaging, and the way it's told, it really adds a layer of mystery, and I don't know, I really enjoyed that movie. I thought it was such a unique way of filmmaking that has never been done before. It really puts you in the perspective of somebody with dementia, and you get just as confused as the main character in the movie, and it was a great watch. I really liked that movie. Minari was also really good, more of a slower paced movie, and I think I also really liked Minari, but I think The Father should have won Best Picture just because how experimental and how unique it was compared to every other movie that was made, and the fact that it did a really good job of it. Like, you can be very experimental and completely fuck up, and no one's gonna give a shit about it. And the fact that it was experimental and it did really well, was able to successfully convey what the director wanted to do, I think, bravo. Okay, let's talk about Marvel movies, So ShangChi was pretty good. I really liked ShangChi when I watched it, but I think it's one of those movies where I think the more you think of it, the less good it becomes, if that makes sense. I actually made an entire video on ShangChi, but I didn't decide to release it just because it felt a bit too ranty. And the thing with ShangChi, right? I liked a lot of things about ShangChi, but I felt like the story was more so about Shang-Chi's father, like the villain, than Shang-Chi. I felt like Shang-Chi was too much of a passive protagonist, and the villain was incredible, and I didn't love the big CGI fight at the end, but look, it wasn't super long, so I forgive it. The action in that movie, the fight scenes were really well choreographed. It was just chef kiss. The way the camera moves within those fight scenes, it really puts emphasis on a lot of the really impactful hits. It's very exciting to watch. Talking about Marvel movies, we have to talk about Spider-Man, right? How good was Spider-Man? Spider-Man was fucking amazing. The new Spider-Man movie, look, it's not all hype, and if you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it. I'm going to go into spoiler territory. I'll probably bookmark it on my YouTube video, so if for those of you who haven't seen it yet, you know where to skip to if you don't want spoilers. But I really like Spider-Man. I really like the fact that they finally tapped into the more darker side of Peter Parker, like the story of tragedy, right? Losing Aunt May, losing Uncle Ben, losing somebody you love, and having to live with that secret identity. I feel like that is such an important part of Spider-Man as a character, and I'm really glad that they finally touched on it in this story. And finally, it's a Spider-Man movie that's not related to Tony Stark. So one of the big things about the new Spider-Man, the Tom Holland Spider-Man, is that in the first movie, in Homecoming, I was perfectly fine with it because a big part of it was Spider-Man tackling that like father-son relationship between Iron Man and, between him and Iron Man, right? Between Peter Parker and Tony Stark, and expectations and wanting to prove himself that he's more than just a boy who was given gadgets by a rich billionaire, right? And I really liked Homecoming. And in fact, I rewatched Homecoming before watching the new Spider-Man. And putting Homecoming next to Shang-Chi, it really makes Shang-Chi seem like not that great of a movie, honestly. Homecoming just had so much heart. It was a great movie. Second movie, Mysterio. Once again, it's a villain that's related to Tony Stark. And I feel like, the second movie just didn't do it for me. It wasn't bad, but I just don't feel like it was as memorable as Homecoming or No Way Home. And coming on to the third movie, the newest Spider-Man movie, No Way Home, that was just incredible. Like, beside the fact that, you had Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and As someone who grew up watching Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, it was super nostalgic, and it was just really great seeing Tobey Maguire reprising his role as Spider-Man. And it was so easy for Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield to kind of take the spotlight away from Tom Holland, but what they did really well was the fact that Tom Holland's Peter Parker remained the center of the story, and every decision, every action that happened throughout the movie was his decision, right? He was still the protagonist. They didn't steal away his spotlight. They kind of brought him up in a sense. The fact that the story kind of completely revolved around Tom Holland's Peter Parker kind of figuring out who he wants to be and also taking on that responsibility, helping other people and things like that. And I really, really like the fact that he was forced to make a difficult decision that had consequences on himself, like at the end of the movie when he decides to erase everybody's memory. It was a very bittersweet moment. It was a very nice soft reset for the franchise. We're able to see more of it later on, and I think it's a much more mature story, a much more mature Spider-Man than the Spider-Man we saw in Homecoming. And it's a very nice character arc, seeing him growing up and having to go through that loneliness that I feel like every Spider-Man has to go through, right? The loneliness of being Spider-Man and no one knowing your identity. I'm really looking forward to what they're gonna do next with the character. I also really like the fact that they gave closure to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man as well as Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. With of course Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man saving MJ, kind of gave him a bit of closure because he couldn't save Gwen Stacy in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Also the fact that Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker, I'm just gonna refer to them as Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland at this point, okay? Just to make things less confusing. So, the fact that Tobey Maguire was the one to stop Tom Holland from impaling the Green Goblin with the glider, because I feel like, one, he's always been very guilty because, well, the Green Goblin is his best friend's father, right? It's Harry's dad, and he's always been very guilty that he wasn't able to, I guess, save Harry's dad from himself. So it was nice seeing him stopping the glider and stopping Tom Holland from killing the Green Goblin. Also the fact that in Spider-Man 3, Harry actually sacrificed himself to save Toby. From memory, in Spider-Man 3, Venom had the glider thing and he was about to stab Spider-Man, but Harry jumped in and kind of blocked the glider and kind of saved Spider-Man, but in the process killing himself. So I feel like this was kind of a very nice nod to that, because Toby couldn't save Harry, right? But he was able to do that for Harry's father. Of course, I don't have to talk about the villains. Willem Dafoe is so good as Green Goblin. Like, he was so scary in this movie. Like, that part where Tom Holland just keeps punching him over and over again and he just keeps smiling and laughing, that was a scary moment. You know, Willem Dafoe in this movie, top notch. I was worried that this movie was gonna be all hype as well. Like, I thought it was gonna be really good because of the nostalgia factor. But even after watching the movie and thinking about it, like thinking back to the story of it, the story is actually really good as well. So for those of you who haven't seen Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy or the Amazing Spider-Man movies, even though it might not be as impactful seeing Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire being Spider-Man again, I don't think it takes away from your experience as a whole. Like, the movie is still, it holds up on its own very, very well. And yeah, of course, I don't have to say, if you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it. Like, you have to watch Spider-Man movies at this point. This is the biggest Marvel movie since Endgame, and you just have to go watch it. So another movie that I really, really liked this year, and I actually watched it very recently as well, is Dune. Dune is an incredible movie. It's a huge blockbuster sci-fi fantasy movie, and I think I actually had really high expectations for it, and I was not disappointed. I hyped myself up so much because I really like these immersive worlds, these huge fantasy stories, and I feel we haven't had a movie like that since, I don't know, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, right? I'm not talking about the new Star Wars movie, I'm talking about the old Star Wars movies, the original trilogy, and yeah, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I feel like we just haven't had one of these really big, immersive fantasy or science fiction worlds that we can just immerse ourselves into, and that just had a great story as well. And Dune did not disappoint. I really, really liked Dune, and I'm super pumped for part 2. Yeah, in fact, I started reading the book as well after watching the movie, because I hyped myself up so much, and I still enjoyed it in the movies. Maybe it's confirmation bias, who knows? I don't care. I had a really good time. Yeah, Dune is incredible. Definitely recommend watching Dune. Might not be your cup of tea, might not be it for everybody, but I think most people should be able to enjoy it, right? It's a huge cast as well. And that's another thing. I thought the cast, the big names in the cast might be distracting because there's such iconic faces, but no, I feel like every casting was so good and fit the role so well. And I saw them as their characters, right? Like I didn't see them as Oscar Isaac or Rebecca Ferguson. I saw them as those characters. I think they just really fitted the characters really, really well. Another thing I really like about Dune is just how grand, epic, and just how big scale everything felt. And I think a big reason for that is actually the score, the epic score that Hans Zimmer's put together. And the combination of the epic visuals and the epic score actually gave me Blade Runner vibes, which is not all that surprising since Blade Runner is scored and directed by the same people who did Dune. Okay, enough about movies. Let's talk about some of my favorite TV series that came out this year. Just like the movies, let's start with Marvel. So Marvel put out several series this year just to keep people on their Disney Plus subscription throughout the year, and I think one of my favorite ones so far, actually no, I haven't finished Hawkeye yet, so I'm really enjoying Hawkeye, but I think one of my favorite ones so far is probably Loki. Loki was just, well, Tom Hiddleston's extremely watchable, and I think Loki compared to the other series that was out is, in my opinion, one of the most interesting, one of the most like weird, and the way it's shot is super cinematic. It looks beautiful, and obviously the story is it's very interesting, and I think it's weird, and it ties into, you know, the multiverse and whatnot, and I'm super excited to see Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and how all of that linked together. Non-Marvel related series, two that comes to my mind right now is one, Arcane, and Witcher Season 2. Also, before we go any further, I just want to say, there is a lot of TV series that came out this year, and I haven't seen a lot of them. So these are simply the ones that I've seen. So if my favorite series is not your favorite series, you know, don't get upset. Just let me know in the comments below what your favorite series was or what your favorite movie is. Okay, so let's talk about Arcane. Arcane was incredible. And regardless if you're a League of Legends player or not a League of Legends player, it's just a great story, great world building, and the animations are beautiful, the characters are great, the story is incredible, and I think it's a series that just everybody can enjoy, and it's just really, really well done. It's crazy that these writers from a game company is able to write better stories than like 80-90% of Hollywood writers. It's crazy. I don't know if it's because Riot just have a lot of money so that they're not restricted by, you know, studio coming in and saying like, you can't do this, you can't do that, or I don't know. The story is incredible. I really like the characters, and even for those of you who've never played the game, please don't shy away from it. It's an incredible series, and honestly, I don't think it has anything to do with the game. And another series that I recently finished I really, really liked is The Witcher, or Season 2 of The Witcher. Interestingly, after watching Season 1, I actually didn't like The Witcher that much. I really wanted to like it. I loved Henry Cavill as Geralt of Rivia, but I think the time skipping and all that just didn't do it for me. Maybe I had a small brain, who knows? I didn't pick up on time skipping until like, I think episode 6 or 7 or something, and I was really, really confused. And I felt like I didn't care about the characters. I really wanted to like the series, but I just didn't like after watching Season 1. So recently, before the second season came out, I decided to revisit The Witcher and rewatch the entire Season 1, see if I would like it more, and I definitely did. So after rewatching Season 1 of Witcher, I just completely fell in love with the world of The Witcher. And I realized upon the second time watching Season 1 that a lot of the time skip stuff was actually hinted in the dialogue, and I think I just didn't pay enough attention and didn't focus the first time around watching it, so I must have missed all the little details and hints and stuff. Honestly, it's just incredible world building, incredible characters. You know, I'm a big sucker for fantasy. And Season 2 continued from where Season 1 left off, the main plot of the Season 1, and they just kept going with it, and it's just incredible. I love Season 2 of Witcher. I thought it was really, really good. I really, really liked it. And I think thinking back across things like, say, Dune, Lord of the Rings, Witcher, and even Arcane, and I think what really attracts me to these series and movies and these stories is the world building. And I just really like how you're able to have complete suspension of disbelief, and there's nothing that are too like like modern or cringy, and it just felt very immersive to me. I just really enjoyed it. And yeah, so that about sums it up. My favorite series from this year has got to be, yeah, well, Arcane, Witcher, and movies, Dune, Spiderman, some of the early Oscar movies. I'm really looking forward to all the movies that are gonna come out this year, and I'm super excited. Also, just before I started recording this video, I realized that Peaky Blinders Season 6 trailer has just been released. So stay tuned. There's gonna be a video on me going through the trailer and breaking things down, maybe a little bit of predictions and all that. Super pumped for Season 6 of Peaky Blinders. By far, one of my favorite series, hands down. If you've followed this channel long enough, you already know I love Peaky Blinders. But yeah, there's definitely gonna be a video on that, hopefully next week or the week after, depends on how busy I am. I'll try to make it as fast as possible. But yeah, so I hope all of you guys had a good 2021 as well. And if you didn't make the most out of 2022, this COVID thing isn't going away anytime soon. We just have to adapt and make the most of it. And also, let me know in the comments below what your favorite movies and TV series from 2021 was. And you know, I'm always looking for series and movies recommendations, so I will read through every single comment and see if there are any series that I haven't seen yet that I might be interested in, and I'll definitely go and watch them. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what your favorite series and what your favorite movies from 2021 was, and we'll get a discussion going. But yeah, as always, go enjoy your movies.